What's up, everybody? It's your favorite planes, trains, and automobiles favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Takara Masterpiece Scale Yukikaze. I'm not 100% sure on the name of that unit. What am I, a linguist? I am not. But I do know one name, and his name is John P., and that's the dude who let me borrow this so that we can take a look at it. I'm actually still in possession of his other ones as well. He's letting me hold all of them until I can combine them. Very gracious of him. So we are going to take a look at him, but before we do, we're going to take a look at the accessories. So, like the others, he comes with two sections of train track. And they have the rails going down and then the sculpted details in, no paint. It is what it is. These 4 notches here are to put in the stand that has come with some of the previous Takara efforts, and you can utilize that with an adapter that I'll show you in a bit. Otherwise, this would just go on top. I have had issues getting this all to line up in the past, but actually I think no, I don't think I got it. I might have it on this one. I don't think I had the rear. But anyway, theoretically, that works. Now, if you had the other stand that plugged into it, you could attach this to that, and then you could take this and let's see where this goes. I just had it. Plug this in underneath, right there, and then that plugs in on top, and then you could have them kind of taken off the track if you so desire. And the adapter will also peg into the back of his pelvis. He also comes with this rifle. What good is an intergalactic warrior without a gun, right? And it's sculpted nicely enough. It might be painted, I really can't tell. If it is, it's very subtle. It's decent, no issues there. It can be stored underneath using this peg with that hole there. And he'll hold it just fine with a tab into the palm in typical Masterpiece fashion. In the combine mode, the gun can be stored utilizing the same peg at the back. He also comes with the combiner head. It's a nice enough face sculpt, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the actual combiner, whenever all of them get released. But you can see it has a hinge swivel that it operates off of. Eyes are a little dead because they're using God, so stupid. But they're using light piping. But anyway, other than that, it's fine. And let me see. Yeah, it works well if you have the light behind it. So for all you guys that have lights shining in the back of your shelves, then you should be just fine. Other than doing this, you can fold up the ears here. You can face the head this way. You can take his crest, falcon crest. Shout out to those who had mothers in the 80s. And then rotate this around. And then rotate it back. Take this black piece here in the back and fold that in, and we can store this in the train by taking these panels here, and they'll double hinge up. Easy for me to say. And then splitting this, disconnecting from the side of the train so that you can really get access to this section underneath, these 2 pieces that control the wheels. Now, there's a little female slot there, so to speak, and you just take the robot head there. There's 2 tabs there that will slide in underneath, and then you just connect it all back, put down your flaps. And I'm not going to waste too much time with this, but you get the general idea, and then you'd be able to store the combine mode head in the train itself, if you felt the need to, right? The combiner head can also be stored in the backpack by these 2 tabs here and just sort of sliding it and connecting it, and then it sits down flush. And we'll take a look at train mode. Rolls like a champ, no issues there. It's really painted quite well. In the same way that I haven't liked the others with the translucent plastic for the windows because it shows all of the innards, I remain consistent in that regard here. The silver paint up top looks fantastic, as does all of the sculpted details throughout. Looks very realistic, very train-like. Same for all these little squares and stuff there. I have no idea what that's for, but I believe it. Does that make sense? Then looking at the front, all of that kind of works for me as well. Once again, I'm not 100% crazy about the translucent, but look at the little silver outline paint around the windows. That sort of stuff works for me. The door, same way. They will connect to the other trains using this system. So it all kind of works in alt mode for me. No real complaints. But before I move on, I do want to show you what he looks like next to Tiger Tracks. You know, they're big trains. You know, they're nice. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, I love the packaging of them. It feels very like retro train set collector. Like it feels like my dad had a train set. You know, nothing crazy. Like none of those like really involved ones. But like you put it around the Christmas tree every now and then. And they all came in these boxes that are very similar to how this was packaged. And there is something nostalgic about that for me. So let's begin the transformation. A lot of panels, a lot of flaps needing flipping. I'm going to try to get to this one. It's proven to be a little bit more difficult than I had initially expected. Get this panel up. This panel, he's going the opposite way. He's going down. Down in Chinatown. Then we're going to open up this panel here. We're going to rotate that to the bottom. And as soon as you do this, you begin to lose structural integrity of the train. Just expect that. On the bottom here, you have the arms. You can flip them out to the sides. They'll rotate the flank as well. And then you want to open up this panel here. Flip the hands out. Rotate the panel down. And then you want to double hinge the door panel back, and while here you could take this piece and flip it in. So same for this side. We're going to open up the hands here, flip them out, close it up. We're going to rotate the large panel that makes up the side of the train back on a double hinge, and then flip in this last remaining panel there. Then on the top here, you'll notice female, male. Connect those, and then flip down the entire chest, and then flip that piece down for the Autobot symbol there. We'll move this section around to the back. You could take his plastic piece off his head if you so desire. Here, you have to take the wheels, extend them out, rotate the nose of the train around, and then you can collapse them back, sit that flush, and then you can maneuver these like thrusters out, and that's sorted. Now the legs, and there is a fair amount to it. So we're going to do the same thing like we showed how to store the head of the combine mode. Flip these panels down, just sit them up against the back. And then split the leg. Not to be confused with sweeping the leg, mind you. That would be cheating. All right, now we have to separate these panels. There's a number of different panels. Here's one, right? Here's another, and here's another. So we're gonna do what we can to just sort of get this out of the way a taste, so that we can begin working on this. So we're gonna rotate this down 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and then 90 degrees, so that and I know that seems confusing, and it is, to be honest, but so that it all sits behind the bulk of the leg. And then this piece can come around as well and sit flush up in there. Now it's just a matter of straightening all this out. So, and it is a lot to straighten. We're gonna bring this down. We're gonna collapse this in front of the leg. We're gonna straighten out the leg too. All right, and I'm gonna fold this in as well. This has to come down. I'm trying to figure it out because I know. All right, there it is. This comes to the back. There's a female there and a male there. And then all of this starts to slide in together. This is on a slider here. And in order to get this male to that female, we had to do some sliding. And Why is this not? So I realized what I did wrong. I missed a flap to flip. So this flap here at the front of the leg is on a double hinge. That flips around. And then it's that female that pegs into that male and solidifies the bulk of the leg. And I got news for you. It's not the best connection in the world. We're gonna go ahead and do that again on this leg. We're gonna try to be a little bit smooth, but it's just not it's not the most elegant transformation, but it is relatively intuitive. Like, it has a tendency to kind of work itself out on its own, which is nice. All right, so that can flip in. We can get that out of the way. These panels all need to kind of break up. We need to break this party up. All right, they're getting a little out of hand. Time to break the party up. Get it out of the way so that we can work with the foot. Now, we're going to rotate 90, and then we're going to rotate 90, so that when we get this up, this section here, the wheel sits in that little cavity there. All right, now, this piece comes down, double hinge. Oh, I'm sorry. This piece rotates to the back and sits behind the foot. This piece comes down and sits in front of the shin. Then you need to rotate this panel so that your male and female connect appropriately here. And then this piece comes around to the back. It's on a slider. You can slide it out. That sits in there. This piece is on a double hinge. It comes around. That grabs a hold of that. And it's just a matter of getting it cleaned up. And I know that's not the easiest thing to see and understand, but the good news is it is relatively intuitive. Like, it does tend to sort of fall in line. Then on the back of the knees, you can see there's a slider there. Utilize both. And then where the thigh connects to the hip, you break that connection on both sides. There's a good chance it's already been done by the transformation. To film it, I put it back in place. Then take your hip skirts, move them down, suspension of disbelief and whatnot, and that's it. I'll clean them up. We'll take a look at them. I'm not going to lie to you. This one's a rough one, buddy. But it's not going to prevent us from getting in tight on the head sculpt for Dennis, which is done nicely, including the eyes being painted, the face being painted, the helmet being painted, and decently sculpted. It feels like to me that the head is on a ball peg. Limited up, but you do get some. Fair bit down. Swivel works well. No confused dog face. For the chest, you know, it's fine. The silver paint comes through nicely. The gray, the bits in there, it's accented well enough, I think, for it to look sort of interesting. You do get a waist swivel. You do get an ab crunch, which is nice. For the arms, you get universals. They get you out to 90 degrees. 360 around. I just realized I didn't do the rest of his arm articulation. So you have a bicep swivel. You have a double jointed elbow. You have a wrist swivel. And then the fingers are on a base pin knuckle. I think this is just straight black plastic. And also these blacks are a little mismatched. Like, this is a little bit of a darker hue than this. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it does stand out. And then we have the panels here on the side, which we've already kind of talked about the deco, but it does look good. We'll go ahead and back out, brush them, look at the whole figure. And we have universals for hips. We'll get these hip skirts up and out of the way. For pretty much the full Van Damme, I say we give it to him. Forward and back to there, so nothing, no real reverse hip movement, which is kind of okay, to be honest. But to be honest, you don't get it the same breath. Thigh swivel, a single hinge knee that gets you 90 degrees, but it's almost useless just because of the box that you form around this thing, so to speak. You know, the thighs look very plain. The sculpt is nice, but there's no paint on it, which does stand out when a lot of this figure is painted. This whole section has a tendency to kind of come undone like Duran Duran. Yeah, this is messy. It's a messy situation going on here. Ankles, no real ankle tilt up. You do get a toe tilt down, which will work, and then you get an ankle rocker, which is fine. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a sloptopus here. You know, doesn't feel like a masterpiece, really. Size comparison wise, there he is with an assortment of kind of third-party Masterpiece offerings. So bigger than a Masterpiece car, smaller than, like, you know, a Masterpiece Voyager, for lack of a better term. And to give you a better idea with the mini bot, I mean, I think that all works fairly well. I can't remember exactly what size they're supposed to be honest. But hopefully, if scale for these particular characters matters to you, hopefully this gives you enough information to make an educated choice. All right, so we got a couple things to do here. Push these in, your little thrusters, and you can put your hip skirts up. You don't have to do this now if you don't want, but it does help kind of keep it secure. And then straighten your thighs out. They'll probably straighten out regardless. And then also move your knees over, as well as moving your wheels down here and basically undoing what you did in the initial. So rotate this around, and then this comes back and up and over the head. Make sure that the head is straight so that this will encapsulate it properly. And then you want to make sure that the wheels here, that there's two sets, right? One with the bar across and one with the gap. You want to make sure that the gap is towards the top. Compress it in, and then make sure it's slid down all the way. Rotate, look at the back of the figure, rotate the bicep until you're facing the panel. Flip the panel up, hand down, hand up, and then close the panel. Same thing on this side. Make sure you're facing so that you can see the back of the panel. Close the fist. You can extend these if it gives you more room. Open the panel up, hand down, hand up, collapse. All right, then your arms come to the bottom. This comes around to the side. Arms to the bottom, around to the side. This piece flips around. This piece breaks the torso, and this section comes down, connects to the top of the train, and this we're going to bring up, collapse into the shoulder, and then connect underneath of the nose cone. Collapse into the shoulder, and then connect underneath of the nose cone. And then where we're kind of getting our ab crunch, we can rotate that all the way up so that you can kind of see where we're going with that. And from here, we're going to largely undo a lot of what we have done. So the good news is you can get rid of some of these panels that don't really hold together in the first place. This one can come back over and sit on top. That's done. And let's see. I think this can even come down. We'll see here. All right, so for the leg, or the lower leg rather, oh, actually, this piece can rock up, and this piece, if we move the wheels out of the way, can fold down. All right. You can use that slider there to make that a little easier for you than what I did. This piece comes around back to the front. This can flip up, I think. I think so. And then, so if you remember, this was down here, right? I'm sorry, let me raise this up just a little bit. This was down here so that the wheels fit into that little groove. And now you need to basically switch it so that the wheels sit upside down. is basically what you're looking for. And this whole section here, we need to pull, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's a rail. I can't show it to you. There's a rail, let me skip this, right here, that this whole thing needs to slide down on. And once you have that slid down, shore this up here, give a little bit of structural integrity to it. This comes down and sits on the inside. And then this comes around, and there is a peg there that will go into there. And that is that. And it angles back a bit. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest with you. But let's continue. Let's do it. Let's do it one more again. So take this piece, flip it around. You got to get access to all this stuff, so just give yourself as much room to fight as possible. This section here needs to come up. Remember, you have this slider here that will help you get this piece down. This little section here comes up on a double hinge. You can move this gray bit around to the front. I can't remember whether that has, I think that has to sit up. And then your wheels for your train, if you remember, they went inside of that groove, but that's not what we want now. We want to invert them so that they sit out. And we want this to sit behind that plate, but we also need it to sit behind our windows here, which are on a huge slider. And once they're slid all the way down, and we give it a little bit of structural integrity, we'll be able to tab in to the side. And once we have all that, then we can tab everything in together. Except I don't think these tab in. I think they sit back almost like a cape. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I'll get it cleaned up. We'll take a look at it. And there it is. You know, I'm not crazy about it, man. I'm not crazy about the way that these sort of finish off. It doesn't feel cohesive to me. And you might be able to make this look a little prettier here in the back. I mean, I think that that just helped, for instance. But, yeah, I'm just like, I'm not impressed. The bottom part looks good. This part, to me, looks a little unfinished, a little less to be desired. Let me show you the other pieces. So, you know, I can't remember which one goes where. Obviously, missing a piece, you know. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I think it's gonna make a really nice train set, is the best way to put it. Jordan. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives, and I don't think it'll come to anybody as any surprise when I say my biggest negative is the lower legs. The stuff doesn't really stick together very well, and it doesn't really hold up under manipulation. The reason for this is because you're kind of building a hollow box around the engineering of the lower legs, so it doesn't take much manipulation without super solid, sturdy tabs to kind of make it all come undone, once again, like Duran Duran. On top of that, the articulation here is limited in a couple ways. The knees only 90 degrees, ankles only get rockers, and even then it's kind of tricky tricky to pull off because of all the kibble around the legs. They also give you the translucent peg, but I really feel like they should give you the stand. I hate an incomplete presentation. Don't make me rely on something else in order to make your presentation of your product look right. If you're going to include the option, include the pieces necessary to present the option. And I think, you know, as far as combine mode goes, it seems a little unfinished to me. I can't really pass judgment, obviously, until I see how it all works and combines and interacts and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, first reactions, first impressions, you know, not impressed. Positives wise, the paint is done beautifully. I do wish there was more on the thighs and on the arms, but specifically the alt mode paint comes through beautifully. The alt mode itself is beautiful in general, but even for the robot, the paint on the head, the paint on the torso, all comes through nicely. A lot of the articulation works really well. Head, abdomen, arms, all work nice. Even the hips get you what you need, so to speak. The transformation, while not perhaps the most elegant, it does have a tendency to sort of fall in place and work itself out, and there is an art to that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's here. I also think a lot of the sculpt work is nice, specifically in the train, but those train details do come through in bot mode, and even stuff like the head sculpt and torso has some great sculpt work, as well as the thighs, shoulders, etc. A lot of sculpted detail here. And, you know, even though I'm not crazy about the combined mode aesthetic, I have to admit that the transformation sort of has the same things going for it, where it seems very natural. Things kind of follow a pace and a rhythm in and of itself that end up working out to create the finished looking piece. As for a recommend, I just can't call this yet, man. I need to see how this all shakes out before I can recommend anything regarding this set. And I know that may not be what some of you want to hear, but I can't recommend it on good faith quite yet. And there's enough merit here where I don't want to not recommend it either, if that makes sense. I just have to wait and see how it pans out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.